Welcome to the Love That For Us podcast.
Come hang out with us as we explore a holistic approach to entrepreneurship, wellness, and navigating relationships in adulthood.
We'll be getting vulnerable about life and dishing the business expertise we've learned along the way, interviewing industry professionals,
All while you get your weekly dose of girl talk and heart-to-hearts. We're your hosts, Charissa Emiko,
and Ashtyn Brooke.
and this is the Love That For Us podcast. How are you feeling?
Good.
Are you nervy, girl?
I'm not nervous. I feel like this just needs to get out there. You know what I mean? Like it's time.
Yeah. Rip that Band-Aid. Like you already didn't rip your Band-Aid with your Instagram post.
I know.
I'm offended, by the way, as your best friend, that I had to find out through the internet that you are officially quitting photography. I literally opened my phone.
You knew it.
I knew it, but like BFF common courtesy is like a little side text. Hey, I'm about to post a life-changing Instagram post to my feed. Just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay. I told literally no one. Will didn't even know.
I know. And I have been telling myself that to lower my offense.
Yeah.
From it.
I didn't even know. I literally was just sitting there like not in a great headspace. I was already super sad and I felt like it was time. It was the day. And I think to end out 2023 with that was like, I was like getting it in before like New Year's, you know?
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Love That For Us podcast, everybody. Today we're talking about Ashtyn making the life-altering decision to quit her career as a wedding photographer and not tell her best friend. Just kidding. She did. I'm being dramatic. We've been talking about it for a long while, which I'm sure you'll share the processing pieces of that. But the day of, nobody knew, including Ashtyn herself, that she was going to post and announce to the world.
And that's on being impulsive, because if there's one thing you need to know about me, it's that I'm an impulsive person and I make those decisions for my personal life, my professional life, not like in a bad way or in a way that would bring poor choices and consequences upon me, but it is just very on brand. It's so, the people that know me, like, you know, that's so on brand for me to just be like, all right, I'm announcing to the world I'm no longer full time.
Right.
So
yeah. Okay, so I have these questions that the people have asked you. I compiled them in a way that I like. There were a lot of the same question, because obviously what's on everybody's mind is like, what the heck, why, what's happening, what's next? Like those are kind of like the main questions, but I have some specific ones too that I want to touch that people asked. But
we're just going to get right into the questions.
Let's just get into it.
Oh
I think
gosh.
so. Well, I mean, like the questions are kind of going to guide our journey here. Okay. What else? Yeah.
Look, today you're the interviewer, so
I know you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Control. Say it. I'm
relinquishing control.
You were like, I relinquish control.
I relinquish control.
Okay.
Yeah,
this one,
it's on you. You go ahead.
This one's not that deep, but it's kind of a yes or no. But lots of people are wondering, are you shifting to part-time or is this like full quitsies?
It's so kind of you to bring that question up first.
I'm like, oh, this is not that deep. And then she starts crying.
No, I know. Wait, should we take a bet on if I cry or not during this episode?
I've already fully prepared for you to cry.
I should have brought tissues.
If we were in person, I would have brought you tissues.
No, I know. I'm going to do my best not to cry and just keep it light and
keep it however it needs to be. No, that's bullshit. Let whatever comes through come through. I don't want to keep it anything. I want it to be what it is.
I know. Okay.
So are you shifting to part-time?
I will be fully transparent in all of my answers, so I don't know why I'm prefacing that, but I think it's more quitting than it is going part-time. I have some weddings this year, obviously, like that's how the industry works. You book out, and that far in advance, like I knew I was making my decision with still weddings left to shoot. But the more I have stewed on this decision and the more inquiries that come to my inbox that I don't feel very confident in answering or committing to, my heart says I'm quitting more than I'm going part-time, if that makes sense. Like if there was an in-between for part-time and quitting, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I would argue by default because of the nature of the industry, not even necessarily because that's what you want.
I think when I say I'm not 100% quitting, the reason is I'm scared to say I'm like done 100%.
That's scary.
So, and because the truth is, if the right wedding comes along, there's no reason I wouldn't say no to it. If everything really checks the boxes and it makes sense for me, and I do feel really excited about the idea, and I'm a good fit for the couple and all of those things.
What are the boxes that wedding would have? I have a couple follow-up questions. You said 2 things.
Charissa, go ahead.
I'm going to take all your guys' questions and take them 30 levels deeper. You said it's scary to say I'm just quitting. What feels scary about that?
It's scary because it just feels like I want to maintain this part of me. I don't want to completely get rid, and I don't want to shed this entire decade of my life. So it feels very scary and unknown to just like drop that and be like, see ya. And the beauty is, like, I've talked to people about this and they always say you can always come back, which is true.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm keeping one foot in and one foot out. Like I do feel certain I'm taking both feet out with the understanding that I can book the right things. Like,
right.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And now I forgot my second question because I was really listening to that question. I forgot my second question because I'm such a good listener that I am a bad interviewer.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it.
You could say it.
I think you were going to ask me something about.
Oh, I remember.
What would tick the boxes?
Yeah, because you were like, if it was if it was just like the perfect thing lined up, like what would that mean for you? But actually, I'm rewinding to we're going to go even deeper on that last question. This is what it's like to be my friend, in case you're wondering. What would it mean? I'm hearing there's like identity. Obviously, this has been a part of your identity for what? How long have you been? 10 years?
I was full-time 7 years. So then like 2 to 3 before that, like developing,
Let's say 10.
Let's say 10.
Let's say 10. Also, happy 10th episode. It's our 10th episode. Did you know that? Cute. Okay, so your identity is obviously wrapped up in this. I'm sure some people listening who are photographers, or maybe even just anybody in I think specifically creative industry, we could go broader, and anything where you're like, this has been part of my identity. This has been part of my life, especially for someone who's an entrepreneur or career focused, where you do lean on your career for your identity. What does it mean to let that part of you go? Because I can hear there's like this part of you that's like, okay, why is it scary? You said, well, it's letting that part of my identity go. What would it mean about Ashtyn if you let that go?
Yeah. There's the hesitancy of who am I without this version of myself that I have literally grown up into. And the unknown is, well, and I'll speak for myself. I do imagine that this is true for a lot of creatives and or entrepreneurs, but wow, I truly just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I was about to ask you if my question made sense.
It did make sense. Okay, so for me, I remember my journey into entrepreneurship, and then the way that like my business really consumed me as it grew and developed and expanded.
Yeah.
I ended up with you involved. Like we had so many conversations about this. Like my identity was so rooted in this in a time where like it was just what I felt known for and what I felt relevant for. So what's actually being
Relevant.
stripped
That's always
away,
been this word
it's
for you.
always been such a difficult
Yeah.
piece. Yeah. So when I take away this career and profession and the identity that goes with it, what is scary is, well, what am I going to be relevant for? Like that's the flesh
Yeah.
side of me that's like my brain is like danger, danger, you're not going to be relevant anymore. And so I'm aware of that, and I'm not going to let that consume me, and I'm not going to let that stress me out, but I would be lying if I said that wasn't a piece of the conversation in my brain that's
Yes.
going on and reminding me like, and if we're going way back, this is something I've talked about in therapy. Like feeling relevant dates back for me way beyond photography. Like it goes
Right.
back
That's
to
like
childhood.
right. That's not a
So this
photography
isn't,
thing. That's just like part
no,
of your life journey of
no.
overcoming. Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's like everyone in the creative or entrepreneurial space is like struggling to feel relevant or not. That's just my story and something that I'm coming face to face with now that I'm letting go of this piece. And in the non-ego side, a very relevant part of my life, like a very day-to-day, it's literally my
Right.
my
Like just your
job.
routine, like your literal life
Yeah.
is changing. Your what you know
Yeah.
is changing. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
That
that's
was
the
something
scary part, I
I
think.
was also really weird when I quit wedding photography was like, oh, this entire it's almost like an ego death of sorts. As if
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a photographer in the education space, you're a photographer other photographers know, social media has become a part of your career and just like being known for that to a large audience of people like that. It is this like weird ego identity death,
Yeah,
which brings along grief. Like there's a grieving process there with that,
for
which I'll
sure.
ask you deep questions about in
Can't
maybe 10
wait.
minutes after we answer all of these other ones. Okay. So the other probably 90% of the questions asked by these fellow, mostly photographers, some others,
Mm-hmm.
what made you decide to quit? And questions that were synonymous to that. So take us on the journey. I'm going to like break that question down because that's a very
Mm-hmm.
broad question. Um, when you started photography, did you have like a vision of what the end of this was going to look like? Were you like, I'm going to be a 60-year-old wedding photographer, like, and it's going to be fine? Like, what, like, was that even on your radar when you started?
I think when I started, I always wondered like, what's the average time people like peace out? Because I know people who are parents, they're, even with adult children that do this job, but they're very far and few between. Even like parents with, let's say, like middle school age, I feel like that starts to feel like the cap. I could be wrong, but from my viewpoint. So it's kind of always been in my head, when is this going to end? Not necessarily like at what age, but I think in my head, I knew it would just fizzle down.
Yeah.
I would say I pictured myself as a parent still doing this, but doing it a lot less.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, quitting whenever it just didn't make sense for our family anymore. But to be honest, I would say that I'm piecing out sooner than I would have predicted.
Yeah. Was there any point during your photography career where like flutters of that thought of what was next would like come up? Or was that something consuming you or something you never thought about like throughout the last 10 years?
Hmm. Not that I no, I can't think of that as like going back to even like say 2019 where my career was still not even peaking probably. I didn't envision or like dream about like what quitting would look like or I wasn't like hoping to quit anytime soon. It just wasn't even in my thoughts. So to answer the kind of original question, this is definitely more in the last year. Actually, less, probably 8 months, roughly.
Okay, so when was the moment? Like, I'm kind of assuming, maybe I'm wrong, I'm kind of assuming there was probably a defining moment. If there wasn't, you won't let me down in this question. But like, was there a defining moment that was kind of the first, like, oh shit, what's not? Do I need to start thinking about what's next? Or like, whoa, am I actually thinking about quitting photography? Like, what was that? When was that? What was that moment, if there was one?
I would say the thoughts just start to, they don't, okay, this is my experience. I didn't ever have this moment of like, I think I'm probably going to be quitting photography. It's almost like you just start to imagine your life in the upcoming year or upcoming 2 or 3 years and asking yourself, how does this career serve my vision for the next few years? Or how does what I'm doing fit into my life, rather than how's my life going to revolve around my career? And
I think that's, oh, okay. Bring them on. I'm ready.
yeah, I am. I mean, everyone who knows me knows, like, I want to be a mom so badly. And that's a priority for me. And it doesn't need to be everyone else's priority. It's just, I have thought through our next few years a lot. And I just want to be the most present mom when it's my time. So I feel like in 2023, just picturing my life as a mom, like photography no longer full-time or even like whatever part-time means, like it really didn't fit that vision. And it doesn't mean that work doesn't fit in my vision, but the way that I've experienced my career with photography is very demanding, and there's honestly a lot of travel. As much as I've tried to like not travel so much, it's just, it has ended up like that for me. And the puzzle pieces weren't fitting very well. So I've come to a place where probably, and I'm still kind of sorting this out in real time, I think God has asked me to surrender my business. Sorry, I'm like so emotional about this.
No, I love it. And I love you.
Yeah, there is. And like, there is a lot of grief with that. On the side of like, I'm not a mom yet. There's the grief on like, I've loved this career so much. I like need to get myself together right now. I'm going to take a drink of water. That'll probably help.
Okay.
I've loved this career so much that like, there is a real, like, this is totally my choice. And also I feel like I'm surrendering it out of like faith. So it might not be everyone else's journey that's like thinking about quitting. It's just mine. And yeah. To go back to the spring, kind of a funny story now looking back. We were driving to the gym, Will and I, and
because she's a gym girly now.
I'm a gym girly. And I was like those thoughts of imagining my life in the next few years were coming in clearer than they had previously. And so I was like, I should probably bring Will into this conversation. And I remember we have like a 10-minute drive. Probably 5 minutes into the drive, I dropped the ball.
Brought up a 2-hour conversation.
I dropped the bomb on him. And I was like, I think I might quit photography. Like, I think I might really stop shooting weddings.
Like walking into the gym.
And we're like pulling into the parking lot and he's like, this just wasn't a conversation I expected to have this drive. And I was like, fair point. And to be honest, that was an extremely, I think, out of left field bomb that I dropped on him. So
yeah,
that was in April, maybe going into May of 2023. Just to like, I guess, give context to this decision. And Will was not like feeling good about it. He felt really hesitant. And I would say that's so fair. Like, this has been a huge part of our life. Like, Will has been so much a part of this business, not because he's sad he's not going to second shoot anymore. Like, he's not sad about that.
He's like, my lifelong dream of being a second shooter is coming to an end. Is that what you're telling me? You're firing me?
That is not his concern. But just financially, like this wasn't a part. This hadn't come up like at all. This wasn't in our plans, and it definitely wasn't in his like view of the future. So we had to kind of slowly just start slow, basically, in that conversation together, which is totally fair. Like, for the person who might be wanting to pull back, but like you just know, like, in your partnership, they won't see it coming. I understand that. And I think to give space and kind of honor the other person, to let it be as much of a partnership conversation. I don't know a better word for that, but just like, let it be a back and forth and not like, this is what I'm doing. And I wasn't at that place in April. I was just like, I kind of think this is where it might be going. It definitely took, I would say, multiple months, like just to have the conversation flow around between us and to not like freak him out. But it did freak him out. And I think he would say that if he were being interviewed right now, like he was not feeling good. And so once I realized his reaction, I probably just like let it marinate for a little while. As the year kept going.
Which I feel like is kudos to you for like,
thanks.
I think handling that very well from a marriage standpoint, like to view something like this as something that you and Will together as partners, as a family, like this decision affects your family and he gets to be a part of the conversation as a whole. Ultimately, yes, it's your career, but like understanding how it impacts Will and you two as a unit and letting that process be slow with him involved is I just love that for you. I love that for him. I'm literally dying thinking about Will being sad that he's not a second shooter anymore. Like that's kind of still playing in my head.
I know. He was probably done second shooting like a year or more ago, and I've still drug him through this whole year. But
so there wasn't really a moment. I honestly, that was so eloquently said when you were like, I'll play it back in a reel. But it was like, you were like, there's a point where it's not so much like, am I quitting photography? But it's where your life stops revolving around your career. And we're 30. It's you're entering this phase of life, and in your personal fertility journey, your family journey, thinking about being a mom, where you're like, that's what's most important to me. That's what I value. It's not career anymore. It's not even this identity or relevancy of my career anymore. It's being a mom. Like it's being a mom and having my family be number one. And like, I love I love, as your friend, watching you choose that, like, so intentionally. Choose you, choose your body, choose your future kids, like choose your family. I've gotten to have a front row seat at watching you prioritize and value that so beautifully and so gracefully through this process, that honestly quitting photography like makes sense, because it's not even about like, you're not even choosing to not do photography. You're choosing the life that you want. And seeing how photography doesn't fit into that, not the other way around.
Yeah. Whew. Do you remember actually when you first asked me this question, this popped into my head.
The dinner with Tyler?
Yes. Okay, so that people know what I'm talking about. I came and saw you. It was like late 2020.
Yeah, I was like, that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
But I do feel like that was the first time I had heard you even talk about and process ending your photography career.
Any of this. Yes.
That was 3 years ago now. Like, that's insane.
Yes. We were sitting down at dinner. I literally had met Tyler that week in person.
Hours ago.
and being the person I am, I'm like, open book. Here's everything I'm feeling. We're sitting at this like outdoor bar, and I start crying because I was like, I am, ironically, in 2020 / probably going into 2021, I do think was like kind of the peak in a way, where like I just was so settled and consistent and profitable and all the things like I really wanted in my career.
Well, it wasn't just your photography career. It was your education career also at that point that was like off and popping. And you were like, you had a coach. You were like launching courses. It was a new chapter.
It was
of
so
success
busy
in photography. Yeah.
And I don't remember who posed what question, but I remember just like crying, sitting at that table, like telling you guys, I know that there's like more for me. And I think I was wrestling with that, you know, relevance and identity, and what do I view myself as, and all of the things that just keep me up at night. And I remember just like saying, like, I think Tyler even asked me like, what else would like fulfill you more? And I was like, I think it's going to be like parenthood. Like, I can't see anything else being more important in my life than like being a mom. And that was 2020, which is in fact when, literally right around when I came to see you, was when we were both like on board with like trying for kids. So, that's actually the first.
Was that dinner, like, at what point of your fertility journey were you at that dinner?
So every anniversary up until 2020, we had a conversation.
Right. You told me this. You would check in like, are we ready to start trying? Are we ready to start trying?
Yeah.
Right? On your guys' like wedding anniversary.
We would like be out to dinner. And for the first few years, it's always this like joke.
LOL,
it was like,
nope. Next.
Nope.
Like,
we'll see you next year.
Yeah.
So I remember 2020 being the anniversary conversation where we both were like, actually, yeah, I think we feel ready. And then I saw you a couple months later.
Wow. That was at the very beginning.
Yeah, it was.
Wow. I can't believe that conversation was 3 years ago.
I know.
Okay, so that probably was kind of, I'm asking for this dramatic moment. Like, I feel like that was a moment where you were like, oh.
It was.
But like, it wasn't like you quit that year. It's been 3 years. So there's been time between now and then. Okay, so what you made... The Instagram post that shocked us all, including your husband and your best friend. What led to that point? Like, what got you to that point this last year? Because if that conversation with Tyler and I was 3 years ago, what was different about this year that made that conversation almost transpire and turn into more action with your life?
Okay, probably there's a couple layers with this one. First being, just practically speaking, it made more sense for me to be able to pull this off because of like our financial situation shifting, which I think when people have like DM'd me and asked me like how or why, because they're also curious to do this, we can't not talk about like finances. And I think
no, because it's literally your job.
It's literally my main income source. And I know people are curious. I know other people are feeling that like tug and they want to maybe take the same steps. And so what's obviously going to be different is like someone else's financial situation and ours.
Right.
So I'll just share kind of part of the story for us this year. Will was in a previous job when I dropped the bomb, and that job was
the bomb.
not going great. Had nothing to do with him, but just like the market and life in 2023, you know? So understandably, that was really hard for him to, I think, picture and imagine me just like piecing out of like our biggest source of income.
Yeah.
And then he got a new job in November, which is amazing and a huge gift. Like we're really, really grateful. He's a thriving boy. And that shifted how we can view our finances as well. As I definitely already felt like I wanted to pull back, I was also kind of in this like, I didn't feel free to pull back because until he got his new job, it just like literally how are we going to like pay our bills?
There's just like this little like basic level of survival need that your body's like, this doesn't make sense. Like,
yeah, the math ain't mathin'.
The math is not mathing.
So that is probably one of the biggest things. Also last year, I partnered with obviously the same company you and I both partnered with, doing like social selling and affiliate marketing, which I do some of that more like randomly and on social media, but specifically partnering with this company. I didn't plan for that. And like it changed a lot for me in my personal like income sources, I guess.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that coming. I didn't see the success of that coming, but also it's so meant to be because I felt like that additional income really gave me more freedom as I was processing and trying to like plan to pull back from photography. I was like, I'm not going to just bring nothing to the table anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to not work anymore. It's just like the means to the end really is like what I'm shifting. So practically speaking, Will got a new job and I still have this income source and have plans to stick with that and like keep doing like online stuff. So those are the two big practical things that allowed me this year to feel confident and a lot more freedom to on that day, on that dark, cold day in December, post that I'm done. And I do think people
through the play-by-play of that day. Like, what'd you eat for breakfast? Like, what happened? Like, how did we get from point A to point B of Charissa opening Instagram and seeing 4 minutes ago Ashtyn quit photography? Like, take me on that journey.
Low-key, it's a blur. I was in like that 2 to 3 weeks of depression. However, I know that this was not like a rash decision. I know that I wasn't like just like feeling emo. I was just
ready.
I was ready. And Will and I had a conversation about his job literally the day before that I told you about.
Yeah.
And you kind of brought to my attention like what like did my subconscious just feel this like sigh of relief to like rip the Band-Aid publicly. And I think you're probably right. So I don't know what to say. I was laying on my couch. I was so sad just because I was depressed. And it was like, I don't know, December 20th or something. I can't even remember. But I just pulled together the photos that I wanted to share. I was like going back in my archives, like picking moments of like me with my camera, my first wedding ever. And I typed up my caption, crying, talking to no one, like no one knew. I was just like trying as best as I could to put into words, like, which is impossible. What the whole decade of my 20s basically revolved around. And I hit post and I literally was ugly crying, like sobbing, like the wave of grief that had already been kind of trailing with me for, I would say, maybe like August to December. I was like acknowledging, like, oh, I feel a grief. Like I was feeling grief with that freaking Instagram page because I was like, I don't know what I want to do with this page. Like I could feel myself I didn't have like a strong like foothold anymore. And with that was coming that identity piece and the relevancy and just like the grief of like, I have genuinely loved this job so much more than I ever could have imagined. So it's weird. Like, it's so weird to just like retire yourself and then like no one is in the room with you. Like, there's not like, you don't have a colleagues or this like retirement party and people like in person supporting you and like loving you on your way out of the office. It's like,
that's so true. Whoa.
It's just me. Like, I can't, it was very weird and surreal and very sad. And so I was like heaving on the couch. Like Will called me because he also saw it immediately. I think he called me right before you did.
I was going to say, I was within the first 5 minutes, so he got me beat.
He knew that I was probably on the couch crying. He was like, I just had a feeling you were sad. So we didn't even really have a conversation because I was just like crying and he was just like kind of like giving me some comfort over the phone. And then you called me and I started just like talking out loud about it, which is great. It's just like dramatic. I feel like I have such a dramatic story about this.
No, I actually feel like your story is going to relate to a lot more people than you think it will. Not even in the photography space, but in any type of career. Like in honestly any type of career that has become a part of your identity. Like, yeah, it's a big shift. I think especially in a career in social media where like all these eyes are on you, or in an education space where you've been a thought leader, an educator, like somebody that people have looked up to and learned from. That's a big thing to step down from. But like, yeah, this is quite possibly the most dramatic analogy I could ever give, but like it's like a famous like sports athlete just being like, I'm done, and you're like, this is dramatic, but like it is essentially like, okay, this has been my life, this is what everybody's known me for, and people are like, well, what now? Like clearly that was what everyone's questions were, is like, what now, what's next, what, you know? And you have had a career very publicly, you've had success very publicly in both photography and in the education space, and Instagram is such a small blip of your life, what you show there, but that's what everybody knows of your life. That's all they know of you if they don't know you in real life. And so like, you know that too. You know that that's all that people know of you. And so it's like, okay, that's another part I think of the identity piece, is like, what do I show you now? What keeps me relevant to you? What, you know, like all those are all the Instagram like dumb but honestly not dumb identity pieces that are very real that like pass our minds. So no, I
think with the education side, I had worked with so many people that I did feel like I owed it to my like community of photographers to not just like randomly fizzle out. I was like, I've had so many conversations and mentorships and like just the beautiful support. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but just overwhelming love and affirmation that like I weirdly felt like I just wanted people to know from me and like from my heart, like where, and hopefully this specific episode helps answer a lot more questions than I could put into a one caption, but
it totally does.
Yeah. It was so, it's almost like too much emotion to like think back to every client and wedding and opportunity and state or country traveled. Like it was like almost literally too much to hold in that moment because of my love for it. And I think one of the things I've been saying to others is like, I'm kind of quitting while I'm ahead. Not everyone would have this luxury, so I understand that, but I feel like I'm definitely pulling away before I became like resentful and then wanted to quit. And I know that some people might be starting to feel like a resentment toward just the demands of the job and the nature of having to book so far out. And like, I totally get that. I understand feeling resentment. I had a amazing year of weddings in 2023, like just incredible freaking people and wedding days that makes me feel really, really lucky that I feel like I'm literally ending my career on that full time, like literally going out with a bang. Yeah. And I would say if you have like some of those practical pieces lining up and you know that you can afford to pull back and you feel that tug, I would say do it as soon as possible because you don't want to keep booking and then a year and a half out, you have more weddings that mentally you've checked out a year and a half ago from. It's not fair to your clients, honestly. And realistically, for a lot of people, like they don't have that luxury of always showing up the best. Like you and I both know we don't always show up 100% for every wedding because we're humans. But as I was feeling this tug, I stopped booking pretty consistently. And unless I felt like this wave of peace over me for a certain inquiry, like I started sending people to other photographers or like saying I wasn't available or whatever the process is, because I knew I didn't want going into this year to have this full schedule that I just was like, well, I want to be done and I feel done. So that is one very tricky piece of the nature of the wedding industry.
It is. It's so important. That's such an important tip if you're thinking about transitioning because of how far you have to book out. Like that was when you're talking about somebody resents that they're still doing photography when they don't want to be doing photography. Like, hello. Well, when I quit, it was 2020. Then 2020 happened. I decided 2020 will be my last year shooting weddings. And then 2020 happened. And then I had to shoot all of those weddings in 2021. My last wedding was 2022. And I quit in 2020. And I was like, F me, I hate this all. And it was horrible. And you have to choose to sit down and have the self-awareness of and the forward thought of where you want to be in a year. Yes. And what your life is going to look like in a year and how you want to design your life to look like in the year. And like you said, does photography fit into that? And if the answer is no, then you have to start scaling back your bookings now because of how far you book out. And that's such an important piece when quitting photography. That like dial down, I think too, even for the process of transitioning out of photography as a career, to be able to do it at a pace instead of just like, let's have like a full year and then like rip the Band-Aid or whatever. Like you spread out your bookings and slowly started saying no and maybe just being more picky until something felt really aligned is really smart too. So
yeah. And even I feel like I used to teach this, like I always want to think a year ahead. Like I want next year's Ashtyn to thank right now Ashtyn for the bookings that I said yes to, the boundaries that I set. And I just had that in my head a lot as I got inquiries all last year. And I was like, I want next year Ashtyn to be thankful for what I'm deciding right now, and really trusting my gut. Obviously, like talking with my husband about it, praying about it. Like I was really dialed in on just like those signs and feelings, and trusting the process, knowing I can come back. I can do other types of shoots if I really, really need to fill some income spaces. But these travel weddings, like I just knew in my heart, like this is not it anymore. So I think when you get over that initial scary like hump of, am I really not going to like book these inquiries that are coming? And when that's like your go-to, like, you know, your process, you know, your system, and you come face to face with this like nudging inside, follow it. And I think how I live a lot of my life is like you really have these feelings of unrest or feelings of peace. And whatever you believe, I believe God is giving me feelings of unrest or peace when I'm making like big decisions. When I'm feeling peace about it, like I keep going that direction. And I kept following that choice of like not booking and saying no to things, and trusting that the path will keep getting clearer. The road is going to keep expanding, and I'm going to keep walking it. And if you're feeling very unsettled, you have to decipher, especially in the beginning, a lot of that unsettledness is fear, and valid fear. If you're making this huge decision, like recognize and acknowledge like the fear of the what if. But if you've been feeling the nudge for so long, I think you kind of have to follow that side and that path of like pulling back, not answering or not booking those inquiries, and then see what feelings follow. Because if you're not booking things and it feels really good, I think that's a telltale. I think you kind of know in your heart, like, okay, that felt really surprisingly good. I think I want to keep trying that, and trust a little bit of the process, which is,
or like, how do you feel when you get an inquiry? That was like a huge telltale sign for me. I would get an inquiry and I'd be like, ugh, like that would be my first.
To answer this.
Yes. And it's like, okay, that's not how I want to feel in my life, in my work.
Right.
Like that's not it.
Right.
Yeah.
Those, you have a lot. I think people have a lot more intuition than they give themselves credit for. You just kind of have to
they just have to
pay
attention to it. Yeah.
Yes. Pay attention and keep going.
Okay. So number one question was why? Why are you quitting? Which we've answered that one.
Check.
The number two question was, what the heck is next? Like, where do we go from here?
I ask myself that every day.
You're like, great question.
Does anyone have an answer for me? So as I said, I will be very transparent. I don't know in full what that means. I'm very much trusting the process here. I'm praying harder than I'm trying to be a mom. So ideally that is like what takes over this huge piece of my life.
Yeah.
Don't know when that's going to be. So in that in-between space, I will still be doing affiliate marketing. I will still be doing DIY projects. I think probably what will surprise people the most in this decision that I'm making is that I don't have like this very clear-cut path forward. I'm not continuing with education because I stopped feeling inspired with that a lot, like very early last year. I was like, I don't even want to do this. So that was probably the first thing that came, was like, I don't want to come up with more courses and stuff to provide people. Like there was just no inspiration there. So I'm cutting that out. But yeah, I don't have this like beautiful tied up answer with a bow on top for what's next. And that's super weird. And honestly, it is a luxury. And I totally recognize, like, I'm very grateful that I can kind of feel this out and just see how this year plays out. But again, I'm really, really trusting in this whole like surrender part, and that it's going to make sense one day.
Yeah. And you have what, obviously your financial situation has changed with Will's new job. But I think also something I've just like heard you say multiple times is before you quit photography, you set up additional streams of income that had nothing to do with photography. And I think that is so important. I mean,
Yeah.
that's important in finances in general, no matter what career
Yes.
you're in, to have additional streams of income. But like that has cushioned you with brand partnerships and affiliate marketing, partnering with our company, like to where that decision to quit honestly just isn't as scary as it could have been without those additional streams. So like that's another thing I would say if you're thinking about transitioning out of the photography career or any entrepreneurial or creative career is like if you have those additional streams of income set up while you're in it, then it's not as scary to walk away because it's not your
really
only stream of income.
Yeah, I'm not going down to $0 every month.
Right.
So I think, I mean, you said it. You said everything there needs to be said. Like, work on additional streams and you will ultimately feel more comfortable making that change.
Yeah. Okay. What will happen? These are a couple other, you kind of talked about this just now. Like, what will happen to your online courses? Will they still be available? What's happening with those?
Well, when this episode drops, I will have a very big course sale happening in real time. So
when does the course sale start? Did it already start?
No, it starts Wednesday.
Okay.
January
when we drop.
10th.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Literally today.
On the 10th.
10th.
So many
10. Ooh, what's that mean? 10.
Hopefully it's something
Keep talking.
very lucky and good. It's the year of my 10th anniversary too.
I feel like I've never hear of 10. It's always like 3, 10,
right.
4, 2.
Tell us something good, Google.
It's kind of weird.
All right, we don't want to know it then.
I don't know. It's just like a weird. Every time I look up these numbers, it's kind of weird. This one I like. This is the funny thing about these numbers is like there's a million different meanings. So I Google them and I'm like, I picked this one. Spiritual awakening and discovering inner wisdom. Wait, this one actually is crazy. Spiritual awakening and discovering inner wisdom, guiding us to understand our life's purpose and unlock our true potential.
Wow, you heard it here first, folks.
I like that one.
Beautiful.
Matches.
What was the question?
Okay. Don't know. 10. Oh, your courses. Your course sale's happening.
Yes.
Today,
right
the
now,
day this episode drops. Yeah.
I'm doing this big final push, like come get them dirt cheap. And I'm shutting them down in like 2 months. So like people will have 2 months basically to watch them.
Can I grieve that? Because that website that I designed for you is so beautiful. And
Not that site's going down. Well,
the shop page is so pretty.
Okay.
I'm going to grieve that.
Go on a desktop and look through my website, look through my educational page. Charissa designed every inch of it and it is literally perfect.
Shop page and it's going to go away. So I need to grieve now.
Well, here's the thing. I have like other guides and stuff that I am not going to pull down right now. Like my presets and stuff, I'll probably leave up. I need to figure all that out. But my courses,
because your presets are still like, you have Lightroom mobile presets, which are just relevant no matter what.
Yeah, I don't want to take my presets down. And then these little download guides and stuff I have, people still buy them. So it's very expensive for me to host.
A brainstorm. We had a brainstorm session for me yesterday about the direction of my Instagram, and I have lots of ideas coming to my head about even just like your website. Like we're gonna have a brainstorm session for you. I know.
That sounds lovely.
So you are leaving up your like one-time like guides are not going away, but your courses are going away.
Yeah,
is that true?
It's super expensive for me to host the like video courses, and so I just have to stop paying for that freaking website.
Okay.
It's so much money.
Okay, so courses last chance is the
last
point.
Chance.
Right?
Watch them in the next 60 days. Get all the good information, and then they're gone. Poof.
And then what about mentor sessions? I feel like I know the answer to this, but that was another question is will you still be doing mentor sessions?
I will not be doing mentor sessions. Well, I haven't been doing mentor sessions, to be frank. So I feel like I'd be surprised if someone came at me for a mentor session. But depending on what it was, I'd actually probably still be open to that now that I say that out loud.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe mentor sessions in the context of how you've done them in the past kind of over with, but like other types of mentor sessions.
I do love like
doing.
one-on-one, just like helping people so much. Like,
yeah, business
and
coaching.
then seeing they're like, yeah, I loved all of that. So I don't know. You know what?
TBD.
Send me a DM if you're really
TBD on mentor
if you're really
sessions.
dying for my wisdom.
We're all about additional streams of income over here. So,
so maybe I keep that one
alive. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. I mean, that was.
Were those all of them?
Those were all of them, and
heavy hitters.
I loved all your answers. Well, I made them really deep. I like took.
Yeah,
I took like what made you quit and turn it into like what's your biggest fear and tell everybody where it started in your childhood.
Literally, you did. I feel lighter.
I love you so much. I'm good. I'm glad you feel lighter. I am so excited to see what this next year holds for you because it's like open field, new territory. Yay.
It's giving open field.
It's giving open grassy field at golden hour. Ooh, golden hour. Triggering word. Do we not use that anymore?
My eye like twitches.
Golden hour.
Golden hour. Well, you were a great interviewer, and I thank you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. And thanks to the listeners, the photography community, for your love and support. I must keep this shallow or I will start sobbing. So read between the lines. I'm just very grateful. I've loved and still love every single one who I've gotten to interact with, support, help, just love your work, all the things. It was a wild, beautiful ride.
10 years. 10 years, baby. Well, leave us a 5-star review because you liked it.
Yes, please.
If you came to this podcast because you're nosy Nelly and you wanted to see why Ashtyn quit, I'm so glad you're here and I hope you stay because this is just getting started. This is really just getting started. Oh, I kind of have one last question. Sorry to keep this going.
Okay.
Which maybe you don't even know the answer to this. I don't think you do. Whatever. I'm going to ask it anyway. What's next for like your Instagram? Like I think that's another thing people kind of are like, what do I do with this Instagram I've grown if I'm transitioning? You're like, I don't know.
I think I've wanted to put more podcast stuff on there, but we have a podcast Instagram. So yeah, that's such a good question because I feel confused. And I have another Instagram that I'm like very inspired with and like I just like am in a rhythm with. So I have too many freaking profiles. If you follow them all, you win my heart. You win. So I don't know. If you are listening and you have a good idea or you have pivoted, let me know because I feel confused.
Yeah, because your other Instagram is like lifestyle, wellness.
Yeah.
We'll keep brainstorming that together.
If we find out, don't worry, I will update the podcast listeners.
I know. I'm like, sorry to end this episyn on a confusion note.
But that is real life.
We have Ashtyn Brooke and we have Hey Ashtyn Brooke.
We sure do.
TBD. Okay, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Love you so much.
Love ya.
Bye.